Okay, in the exam, there are two ways that they are quite likely to get you to compare information ideas and also how those information ideas are conveyed or gotten across between two documents. What they'll usually do is they'll ask you a question where essentially you're comparing the information and ideas found in two different documents. So you're reading through two different documents, thinking about their main points, what they're saying, what ideas they're getting across, and you're comparing them. So you could either be finding similarities or differences or both. Now, what they'll usually do after that is also ask you how the writers of those two documents get across their ideas and information. And you'll note here that it's not talking about how the information ideas itself. They're not interested in the points and the ideas that the authors are making. They're interested in how the authors use language to get across their ideas. So what you're looking for isn't the information ideas itself, but how that's gotten across. And there's a few ways we can look at them. We can look at things like language use. So we could look at, for example, persuasive features of text. We could look at the overall tone of the article. And we could also look at whether it's biased or not, whether someone's very opinionated one way or the other, or whether they're given a balanced point of view. There's a lot we can look at here, and we're just looking at how those ideas are gotten across. So you'll want to download the Reading Mobile Phone source documents above this video, because that's what we're going to be using for the rest of this video. So if you haven't got that yet, pause the video and download that now. So we're going to be looking at two documents here. So document 2, which is a web page, and document 3, which is a poster. Now they're both more or less about the same thing. They're about mobile phones, and the ideas that they both get across you would have already looked at in the first comparing activity. Now we're looking at how they get the ideas across, not the ideas themselves. So reading through this, what I immediately note is that the tone here, it's written much more like a review. So the tone is quite balanced. It's giving pros and it's giving cons. So for example, this paragraph here, the key things to consider when buying a smartphone. It tells you about how good a particular particular phone is, but it sort of puts that in context. So it says, if you want to use your phone to view photos, then big is beautiful, like the Galactica's 7-inch screen. So it's kind of giving you both sides of the story. It's giving you all the information, letting you make your mind up for yourself. However, we can compare this directly to this advert here. Now, this advert explicitly states that we want our handset to have the best of everything, so we believe we achieve that with the new Galactica 1. So this advert is basically saying you don't need another phone, you don't need to make your mind up, you don't need to know the information, all you need to know is this phone's brilliant. So that's our first point of contrast. The first text here, the review, is giving as much information as possible and letting people make their own minds up, whereas the poster is written in a very persuasive way and it's trying to sell this particular phone. There are other things to consider as well. This review is written from one person's point of view, this gadget man who's writing these reviews for this website. And you've also got customers' reviews here. So for example, this section here, you get quotes from actual people who have bought the phone. However, of course, because it's advertising the phone, they're only giving you the positives. So that's another point of contrast. The first document here gives you the viewpoint of one person, whereas the second document gives you 3 quotes from people who have bought the phone and are very happy with it. You could also look at the sheer amount of persuasive language features you can find in the advert and compare that to the language features you find in the review. Because while the review does use language features, it uses things like rhetorical questions, but first consider, is a smartphone for you? Is an example of a rhetorical question. It's used in a different way to the advert, because the advert says, are you ready for the brave new world? So in the advert, the rhetorical question is trying to prompt you, trying to get you to buy the phone, whereas in the article, the rhetorical question is trying to get you thinking about what phone is right for you. There's a subtle difference there. They both use rhetorical questions, but they use them for different reasons. So that's how you start to identify and start to pick apart how writers convey their ideas, how the two different authors might get across their ideas. And remember, we're not looking at the information ideas themselves. We're looking at how the writers use things like tone, what perspective the writer writes from, what kind of text it is, whether they use bias or not, and whether they use language features. We're looking at those sorts of things. We're looking at how the writer gets across their ideas, not what those ideas are. And we're comparing them across both texts. So now you can have a go at the task.